Hey fish friends, Michael here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a low-tech nano planted aquarium. This is an extremely budget-friendly setup with a pretty easy design that anyone could do at home. I'll leave links to products in the description in case you're interested in trying to set up one of your own. For today's project, you're going to need a small aquarium. If you're on a budget, I'd suggest that you go on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I got this 6.5 gallon or 25 liter with a filter, heater, and light for 20 bucks. You'll want a full spectrum light to grow plants, something in the 6,500 to 7,000 Kelvin range. Wooden rocks are really the perfect way to make any tank look natural. I found most of these while walking my dogs, except for a few of the rocks. You'll see what the filter floss and sponge are for later. As far as substrate goes, I'm a big fan of planted substrate, not so particular when it comes to brands. Obviously you'll need some live plants. Super glue and napkin or paper towel will come in handy, and then some sand to line the front of the tank. Setting up the hardscape is a really fun part of the process for me, and I'd recommend that you get involved in it, because this step is what can really make your tank look unique. You can either dive into it with absolutely no plans and just see how things look as you lay them in the tank, or you can come up with a vision of what you'd like the tank to look like and slowly assemble the pieces to get there. In this case, I know that I want to use this chunk of wood that looks like it's bursting open in the middle. I also know that I want to have planted soil in the back and sand in the front, so I'll use this piece of wood to block the two substrates from each other. If you don't weigh the wood down, it'll float as soon as you fill the tank and rip up anything in its path. I like to wedge some paper towel or napkin between a contact point and douse it down with liquid super glue. After 10 or 15 seconds, the paper towel should be rock solid, holding the wood and rock together. I do this at a bunch of different points to make sure that the wood is really secured. Even though the backbone of this barrier is really secure, you can see tons of holes. That means that the planted soil in the back is just going to pour through and mix up with the sand. So I'm going to need to wedge a bunch of filter floss into the gaps. It's really a very straightforward process. Just rip off parts of the filter floss and shove them in the gaps. Keep doing this until you've filled up all the holes. The best way to check is to shine a light through the other side and make sure none of it pokes through. Believe it or not, substrate's kind of a controversial topic for some folks. I know this because I get comments telling me what I'm doing wrong, so I figured it's a good time to chat about the different substrates, and to also bring up the fact that you're not wrong if you pick either method. You can have a successful tank using garden soil or aquarium products. When it comes to live plants though, you do need to provide them with something nutrient rich and soft so that they can spread their roots through it to grow. Garden soil and sand are way cheaper than planted aquarium soil, and it looks pretty good in my opinion, a super natural finish. But one advantage to using planted aquarium soil is that it's easier to slope up in the back and create more dynamic hardscapes with. Also, you don't need to cap this stuff off with sand. It's a common misconception that planted aquarium soil will leach nutrients into the water continuously, maybe for the first few days to a week. So anyways, I slope it up towards the back to accent the plants that'll go in that area and to create a sense of depth. Then I lay some additional pieces of rock and wood for more detail. I add some sand to the front as well as river pebbles to create another layer in the tank. The more contrasting layers you can create in a tank, the more depth will result, and the tank will appear larger. This is a really good trick to do with smaller tanks like this one. Now that I'm happy with the hardscape, it's time to start planting. I'm going to add a little bit of sponge here so that I can pour some water on top. That way my plants don't dry out during the planting process. Time to get planting. This is where the tanks really come to life in my opinion. I'm just going to be using some clippings from plants out of my big tank. The first one I believe is Pogostamen stellatus, but my cousin gave me a clipping and forgot what it's called. Let me know in the comments if you know what it is. I'm just snapping off the little shooter stems that are popping out of the nodes. This plant grows tall so quickly, it'll be great for keeping the water clean. To plant them, all you do is grass them by the base using some planting forceps and stick them under the substrate. Then there's pearlweed or Hemianthus micranthomoides, which can grow really tall, but also looks good trimmed pretty low. I added a few more small plants for detailing, and things are starting to look good. It's been 3 months since setting this tank up and things look great. I've done 2 water changes, one at about the 1 week mark, and then the second was just before filming this video. I checked my nitrates and they're at 0, so I wanted to touch on that because I mentioned not needing to cap your substrate before in terms of nutrient leaching. And as you can see, obviously this is planted soil and I haven't capped it, and it's not leaching a ton of nutrients and the plants are growing fine. I'm not using any fertilizers or chemical filtration. There's just a couple sponges in the filter, which is a little hang on back. I think that the flow it provides is invaluable. It just keeps gross things from settling on the bottom and the water from staying stagnant. And then I'm not using CO2 either. This tank is stocked with some snails, cherry shrimp, and a few endler guppies. I'd really be cautious overstocking a tank like this that's not really filtered very strongly and that I'm not doing many water changes on. As long as you stock a tank like this well, things should work out fine. That's all I got for today's video, everyone. Thanks a lot for watching. Drop me a question in the comments if you got any. Make sure to sub if you learned anything. Till next time, see ya!